You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey all, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 65. My name is Clark from 5 Card Guys on Instagram. And with me as always is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards and John, who is Trade You at Recess. So off the top guys, just a couple of things I wanted to address quickly. We now know the Colorado Avalanche has won the Stanley Cup, and the Conn Smythe trophy, which is awarded to the MVP during the Stanley Cup playoffs, was given to Cale Makar, who is a defenseman. He scored 8 goals with 21 assists. So actually, let me throw this question to John, who's our resident hockey guy on this podcast. Should we start looking into getting some of his rookie cards? But before you answer that, let me provide a little more context for our listeners. Makar also happened to win the Norris trophy this season, given to the best defenseman in the league. He scored 86 points with a plus minus of 48.
Wow.
And winning both the Norris and Conn Smythe in a single season puts him in a pretty elite group with just 2 other players. You might have heard of them. It's Nicholas Lidstrom and Bobby Orr. So back to the question. Is it time to pick up Cale Makar's rookie cards? What do you think?
No, it is not. But you know what? I only say that because obviously of the crazy amount of hype behind Cale Makar. Yeah. But when you watch this kid, there's no question. I think he is all the way special. He's drafted 4th overall behind one of my defenseman favorites, Miro Heiskanen. And, defensemen generally take a lot longer to develop. So you may see elite defensemen that were drafted, 20th overall that become like top tier, number 1, minute crunching defenseman on a team. It's just the way it happens. So Cale Makar, it wasn't like he was heralded like the next Bobby Orr, like drafted number 1 overall. Like I think people knew his offensive prowess and how good he was. I'm sure nobody really thought he would be this good, this fast. But in watching him, his confidence, IQ, decision-making, he's like a one-man breakout. Like this kid is absolutely all the way special and pretty insane that he is in, he's won the Conn Smythe and the Norris already and a Stanley Cup all in 1 year. Mm-hmm. And he's among the 2 best, in my opinion. Number 1 in the world ever all time is Bobby Orr, and number 2 overall all time is Nick Lidstrom, right? Those are my top 2. And he's right there. So I don't, if you're wanting to invest in Cale Makar long term, there's definitely, for sure, this is a kid worth investing into. Right now, after this hype, absolutely not. There will be a time. Look at every other defenseman and what their prices do. You're going to definitely see his cards at some point. Mid-season lull, off-season lull, maybe mid-season lull next year. There will be opportunities, so kind of hold off on the FOMO. But yeah, in terms of long-term, I really think he is somebody to take a look at. I was going to mention one other point, but I'll throw it to you guys as I think of it.
Do you think D-men's get like a little hate, yeah. Or do you think it's a little different? Like I know catchers, for instance, in baseball get the hate, and pitchers even more.
They do.
But you look at like guys like Paul Coffey though in hockey. I mean, his rookie cards aren't cheap, right? But he's established a great, an unbelievable career. So is there like that, potential, or is it kind of like demons are kind of people you stay away from?
Yeah, Demon, we've talked about this. Thanks for bringing that up, Hyung. That's exactly what I was trying to get to. I was trying to say the thought of the good thing about this is that Cale Makar is putting Demon kind of on the map. He's actually making people excited about investing in Demon. So who knows what this will eventually, hopefully spark. But there's no question, overall, Demon, goalies, very similar to pitchers, bat catchers. They tend not to get too much love. Football, it's like, quarterbacks versus defensive line, or wide receivers, cornerbacks, running backs, and stuff like that. So kind of along the same path. It's tough to say. Number one, it's good to see that Cale Makar is really putting Demon in terms of the hobby, in the limelight. Who knows what it'll eventually do, but I really hope it does. I think Demon certainly deserve this type of respect in the hobby and pricing. But we'll see. But Cale Makar, amongst all the Demon that I've been watching, I mean, his confidence is soaring, and it looks like he's playing shinny hockey. It's ridiculous. He looks all the way special for sure.
He might be like that new breed of defenseman, right? Like, just even hyper forward minded, you know what I mean?
Right.
That could put D-men in general on the map, and who knows, like give it 5-10 years, they might start to get more of the credit that's due to, defensemen.
Right.
Just to give you some context, his Young Guns PSA 10 pop count's about just over 1,200, and it's selling for right now, at least, for just over $1,000.
Wow.
And he does have a SP Authentic Future Watch, one of our favorite sets. And I can't find a lot of comps.
I think it's around 3,500.
For what grade?
PSA 10, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I saw a couple raw cards being sold at about 1,500, 1,600. So, and they're numbered to $9.99 as well. So, and I think I was looking to see if I could make a comp between the two other defensemen that he joined in terms of the elite group of both winning the Conn, Smythe, and the Norris. And you can't compare it to Bobby Orr, obviously. Yeah. Even his card, like to find his card in a good condition, that's what gives it the value. And then Lidstrom, his rookie year was 91-92 to Joe Quack's era. So like his O-Pee-Chee Premier PSA 10, I think, went for just under $100.
Yeah. So it's so insane. And those years had no like crazy inserts that could become like PMG style chase cards. Like there was not
pretty boring cards.
There was nothing. It's such a shame. It's too bad.
All these cards look like they're like taken when they're doing warm ups before a game. It's like, come on, O-Pee-Chee Premier.
I know.
Like, so yeah, it's hard to make the comps with the other two defensemen. But now that the cards are like the SP Authentic, like we were talking about, they're numbered. That gives it that scarcity. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Who knows what will happen to the values of defensemen. So we'll see. The other thing I want to discuss off the top is, of course, the recent sale of the LeBron James triple Logoman at Golden Auctions. A lot of discussion. I put that up on my 5 Card Guys page, and there's been a couple comments saying like, can we stop talking about the triple logo? Right. People are just getting
That's all you see. That's all you see on all these pages, right?
Yeah, and you know what? We won't talk about it in length. It's not our hobby headlines for today, but I did want to at least mention it because it was a big sale, $2.4 million with the buyer's premium. We knew that there was a lot of hype going into it, and I think technically John won the guessing game.
Yeah, we're way high again.
I won it based on prices, right?
Guess.
Yeah, prices exactly.
Yeah.
He bid the equivalent of $1. I think just under $1 million. He said, and Hyung and I were north of $3 million. So at 2.4, John wins that bet. But just wanted to first get your thoughts on that sale. Surprised you at all what it went for ultimately?
For me, I think I know like a lot of you just read the comments. It's so divided and pretty crazy, but I think it was just the wrong time to sell in one instant, like because you're on the tail end of basketball, and then that kind of hype kind of died down with the false ripping. And I mean it's a great sale regardless. Like to me, I believe the sellers of the card were actually happy. Maybe the hype of the whole maybe the whole like 6 million comp that Ken Golden was pushed and was a little maybe inflated, and maybe it was emotional at the time. He did get those kind of offers, but we got to be realistic with the situation that we're in. We can't expect that prices won't be affected by what's going on in the macro lens of our economy, right? So like I think it was just a bad time to sell. A lot of people in the comments, just from reading it just seems like, oh, this was overhyped, blah blah blah. And I get it, like it was, but that's the whole point of marketing. If anything, you could see it the other way. Even if it was expected a $6 million sale and it closed at $2.4 million, that's insane for a for a non-rookie card to go for $2.4 million. Like, it's still an insane number at the end of the day. But I mean, I just think there's more, I guess, negativity that can be drawn out of all this, because it becomes more of a look at this or look at the comments. Or I seen in Card Porn's recent post about some guy was saying that the bids were basically locked. So some people can't even bid, but we don't know the truth of that, because obviously, we probably never, especially in an unregulated market, right? So I don't know the story behind that, nor would it make a difference. But hey, you never know if they're, in a couple weeks, something else comes out. So I don't think I can conclude anything based off that, but I think it's still a healthy sale regardless. But wrong time to sell. I think it could have went for more if the timing was right. If it was a little earlier before, probably the spring. But yeah.
I think it's all perspective, right? Like, I think on their Twitter they spun it saying it was the highest price sale of a card that was pulled in the same year.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's a quick, cool, easy profit right there. 2.4, I'll take it any day.
Right.
It's still way too. I'm not surprised at the price. I still firmly believe it should be worth no more than $1 million. I think that's whoever bought it for 2.4. We don't even know if somebody for real bought it for unregulated. I'm not going to get into conspiracy theory, but we don't really know. But 2.4 million, I mean, that for me, that's so insane. Like, I think the marketing behind it, the buzz, when all things settle down, especially if you were the person to buy it, I just don't know if there's that much upside. Like, I don't know if that card is going to get even crazier or more iconic as time goes by. Like, who knows if Flawless starts creating these triple Logoman like crazy and there's like another LeBron triple. Like, you don't know what could happen with this card. So as unique as it might sound right now and as crazy as it might sound, once that buzz, it was front page headlines everywhere, right? People were trying to rip it and trying to get it. And, in 12 months, in 24 months, who knows where this card stands. So long-term investment, again, I don't see it, but we don't play in that space. So who knows? But when you just think about what you could possibly buy for $1 million or $2 million in the sports card space, and you think about all the cards that have come and gone, I could pick so many cards that I think are way, easily better investments. But again, what do we know? But
Well, that's a good segue, because I put up a poll on the 5 Card Guys Instagram page asking whether the LeBron James Exquisite Rookie Patch autograph, which is also up for auction at Golden, BGS 8.5 grade, right, was a better deal than the triple Logoman, because it sold for $2.1 million.
1,000%.
Easy.
$300,000 less.
So. Oh, man.
I'd rather spend the 2.1 on that card, number 23, than the triple Logoman, for sure.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like John hit it on the nail. It's like, we could say that, like, if we had 2.4 million, where would it go? But I'm telling you, the mindset's so different when you play at that level, because people who are purchasing $2.4 million cards, they're playing at a different level. They think differently about money too, and everybody's situation is different. So we don't know, why they're purchasing this, cards at that value, and what kind of, I wouldn't even say disposable income, because I don't think people that have that kind of money just treat it as because think about it. If you flip that card for 3.5 million, people are going to say you're a hero, right? Or you know what I mean? So it's all perspective, and it's like, who is the loser if he made $1 million, on that flip within a year? I remember the same thing when everybody was bashing Vegas Dave, for that Bowman Chrome sale of Mike Trout. I think it was the red. It was like I forgot, but he flipped it for enormous amounts. And when he bought it at the time, it was a six-figure transaction at the time where the space wasn't having these kind of sales, and people were like, "You're insane, Vegas Dave." And literally, he probably flipped it, made a six-figure flip easily, and
I think it was like one of the first $1 million modern cards.
Right. So it's like it's all perspective, right? Like of course, from our perspective, we're like, it's insanity, right? Like what can we buy with how many Bowman boxes can we rip for $2.4 million? How many cases, right?
I would rather spend my money doing that for sure. Yeah, good point. Just FYI, the poll results weren't that surprising. I think over 90 people voted over the course of a day, and it was like 85% would have rather bought the RPA over the triple Logoman. So, but we're all peasants, right? We're voting. All of us peasants are voting in that poll. So it might be different if you have millionaires taking that same poll.
Right.
But you know what? I think one other thing I'll add to the discussion is that, I think it might be a sign that even the super high-end cards are also being impacted by the state of the economy.
For sure.
Not as much as like the lower to mid-end cards, but I can't help but wonder how much the triple Logoman would have gone for back in February of 2021,
right
at the peak of the recent hobby. Then 6 million, is that out of the question?
I think that's where we're all thinking when we seen the potential of it, because the way the market has been, obviously we've seen a massive correction, but I think it wasn't out of the picture. And I know people are like, "Oh, I told you it wouldn't go for 6 million." Yet they totally dismiss kind of like the economic factors. I'm telling you right now, if you don't think the economic of this world is impacting prices today in sports cards and real estate, crypto, stocks, every single asset class, I'm telling you, you got to do your due diligence, because there is a direct correlation between all these sales. And it's not saying that everything is gonna, tank, because obviously some do hold value. I was reading a post where it was like these old school comic books from 1938 or whatever, they have always been recession proof. In every economic cycle, they've actually increased in value constantly. So there are those types of collectibles and assets and things that can appreciate even through a time like this during and we're talking about recession, but we haven't even hit the recession yet, right? So it's like we're just entering it, and for me it's like I still believe it's gonna keep going down, right? But that's where the people that do look at it as opportunities, I think that's when they start getting in the game, and that's where kind of like that balance becomes, right? So
yeah, for sure. Actually, our next segment is kind of related to that. So let's move on now to hobby headlines. So for the past several episodes, we've been talking about the bear market that we're in and looking at different strategies and opportunities and approaches to get us through this, like looking at what we can buy and focusing on GOAT players at discount prices as potential investments. But I wanted to look at the other side of the equation, and more specifically, with the sports card market trending downwards, and we're seeing all-time lows of a lot of different cards. Are there any cards, and you can talk about specific ones or just general sets, that you've changed your mind on when it comes to buying or investing in because of the current sports card market? So, another way of thinking about this or asking this is, who are you taking off your watch list because of the current bear market? I'll start by giving an example. All right. I'm off of stud players who are injured right now and might come back later in the season. And, someone I'm thinking of in particular is our boy Fernando Tatis Jr. And, in a normal market, I would love to scoop them up at a lower price, because they're hurt, and just hold until they come back when they're finally healthy. But honestly, with the way the market is now, it's just a little too risky for me, right? I see prices coming down as expected, but the price doesn't shoot that far up, or if at all, in this kind of market. And case in point is Ronald Acuna Jr. He's a good example although his prices didn't drop that much as we discussed in previous episodes when he was hurt. You look at his price now, it hasn't bounced up because he's playing all of a sudden,
right?
And
he's playing decent. I mean, he's playing decent. He's pretty good, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly.
And still no action.
not your typical normal market action for sure, right? So for me, honestly, prices have to drop real hard for me to invest in hurt guys, and then I would have to think about holding for the longer term. That would be my strategy, because I don't think you can flip for a short-term gain right now in this market.
Right.
Anyway, you guys have any thoughts about this or another card?
You know what? I'll go because it's kind of related. Like, I agree where those young star type players where there's a lot of, I guess, risk involved. I think back when I started collecting again, I always looked at it as a different perspective than how my recent mindset over the last couple of years changed to like the flipping mindset. It's like, and we compare prices 6 months ago, and I understand, that's what some people do with stocks, but I feel like, like if you just study and go back to kind of like what you think is valuable, saying if you do believe in the Fernando Tatis and he is injured, don't look at it obviously as a short-term flip. And if you truly believe in him, start targeting those cards, right? So it's along those lines what you're saying. It's a lot riskier, but I think going back to kind of like doing your due diligence on what you think is a good long-term investment constantly. So I'm staying off of kind of like the young stars that create the hype of original releases. So for instance, I love Topps Chrome. Don't get me wrong. I love Topps Paper, Series 1, Series 2 update. I'm usually a fan of that, but I think ripping makes absolutely no more sense in terms of the flagship stuff, to be honest. As weird as that sounds, I still think there's extreme value in like kind of like Bowman. I love Bowman, but like the prospecting world's different. Like people are crazy over the prospecting world, so that doesn't change. So the initial hype on release, I think there's always going to be that kind of fuel that sparks some kind of price action in terms of the hottest release. But for instance, this year, Topps Chrome, we're getting into the Topps Chrome year. It's not cheap for a hobby box, but then you got guys that it's not their Bowman, like Julio Rodriguez, Bobby Witt Jr., the Spencer Torkelsons, all those guys, they're going to have their flagship kind of like Topps Chrome rookie. It's a great like collector's piece, but I don't think you'll see that type of return. You kind of seen it with like Luis Robert, Bo Bichette. Like ever since their release, it was so hyped, and they couldn't even, from basically 2020 till now, it just kind of kept on going down and hasn't even stopped, right? So I think ripping is probably something that I would advise not to go unless obviously that's your thing, but I think just the flagship stuff is kind of, I don't see the ROI on there immediately. Even after you rip, you would have to pull some absolute monsters for it to make sense, right? So,
right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see how it's aligned with what I was just mentioning. Yeah, if you have a flipper kind of perspective, it's really, you got to be really selective now to make that ROI.
I mean, it's tough. Yeah, if you're flipping in a bear market, like good luck, if anything, put,
buy singles, guys, come on.
Singles. But even then, it's like just hold and do your due diligence. True. Wait for the good opportunities where you're like, you know what, this card's going to be super hard to find, super hard to get, and it's at a good price right now. I know that I won't get it at this price. If that's the case and you believe in the player, go for it. You can't lose, because maybe, by the time it's next September, next October, or even like next January, you won't even see one for sale, right? So that's kind of like the mindset I have, where it's more long-term and kind of like more, I guess, safer in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Johnny?
Oh man, I got lots, man. In this kind of bear market where I think we're going to see more downturn, number one for me, I'm staying way away from any kind of base cards. That's number one. I'm staying away from anything that is other than PSA 10. I'll throw BGS True Gems in there. I can throw SGC 10s in there. Maybe some CSG 10, but no PSA 9s, no BGS 9.5. Min gems. I would probably I just that's just me. Like I think if you're gonna go after some cards, try and stick to like the number 10. Like that's what people want to see, and especially coming out of recovery. I think those are the cards that are going to probably perform the best. I'm personally, I've been thinking about this a lot, and this thought process was in my mind as I was talking about Juan Soto last couple of weeks. And you guys know that I picked up a Juan Soto. And my thought process was like, I'm starting to feel very weary of ultra modern. I think during this bear market, I probably would stay away from ultra modern. And by ultra modern, I'm talking about anything 2018 and forth.
Right.
So that's why, normally I think Luka would have been my number one target. But, in looking at Luka cards, there's just so many. And we're talking 2018. That's like the beginning of ultra modern. Now look at it. Like you look at LaMelo's year, you look at this year coming up. It's just so crazy. So if you really can't hide away from the FOMO and you got to go for it, I would stick with the highest known brands. Just stick with the Prism, stick with Prism numbered if you can. I know, new releases Prism numbered is ridiculous prices. So, it's hard to say that to buy that. And on the one hand, it's so expensive and it's hyped. And on the other hand, John's telling me to go out and buy this card, but,
you're so elitist, John.
Yeah. But honestly, in this like ultra modern space and what's happening with ultra modern and printing and all that stuff, like brands like Flux and even, to be honest, even like Hoops and some of your classics, I don't know. For me, for the time being, I'm just staying away from all of that. So like no base, I'll probably try and stay away from ultra modern. Even Luka, to be honest, I'm still looking for a nice numbered Luka, and I may trade into one at some point. Obviously, the price has to be right. But I don't feel as like desperate to get it anymore because when I look at it, I'm like, man, these guys have so many variations of rookie cards. Like, I don't really know how special it is, right? Whereas Juan Soto was so different because he is a part of the ultra modern class, but he's got such limited cards. It doesn't feel like he's a part of this ultra modern space right now. So for him, I was like, you know what? It's time to go in on him. It's time, but for the other guys, LaMelo Ball, his prices are cheap. Yeah. The guy's got like 5,500 different rookie cards. Like, at the end of the day, when all is said and done, like, I don't know how that is all going to shake out in terms of the hobby and what the hobby thinks of these ultra modern rookies. So yeah. You guys get what I'm saying.
I do. I really like your point about, I like two of your main points, which is the grading. Like I was off PSE 9s a while ago. I was trying to sell that as fast as I could over the past year, just because as everything does come down, the discrepancy in pricing between PSA 10s and PSA 9s get narrow and narrow, and why even bother buying PSA 9s? And now we're seeing that raw cards are valued at higher than PSA 9 prices, which is kind of ridiculous, but that's just a reality. Yeah, and then just staying with the top brands. I think that's a smart move as well. But let me throw a couple of other sets at you. At the hobby boom, Marvel was a huge thing. You think that was kind of a hobby boom kind of thing, and now it's like kind of fizzled out? What do you guys think?
I think so. I think there's still going to be a space for it. I think it was hyped up obviously by the people that were in it, and you've seen a lot of volatility. So in a like bullish market, you kind of see everything's fun. Everything is great, Right. And I think that was, the hype of Marvel as well. But I do believe, like, for me, is like I was a Marvel collector, in the 8th grade. So this is talking about 1995, 1994. I was like literally collecting Marvel, that Wolverine versus Sabretooth, the masterpieces. Like one of my favorite cards. John, I think you have that one of those cards, but like not the hologram, the Wolverine versus Sabretooth.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
Spider-Man
that's
versus
right.
Venoms, the masterpieces.
Yeah, 93 masterpieces.
Yeah, the 93 masterpieces. Like, stuff like those are so nostalgic for me and bring back so many memories. And I think a lot of people do have kind of like that same passion in that space. So for me, it's like, it's not necessarily, don't follow that hype because it's the trend, and that's where you always will get crushed if you're doing that, right? It's like, that's why it's like we say buy what you love, but if you dissect that into what that really means is, hey, if you like the Marvel area and you these cards speak to you because it was a childhood past or a great memory that you shared with someone, then go for it, because over time you're not going to want to get rid of it. You're going to want to keep it, and that's how value usually works in terms of with when you're going against time, right? So I don't necessarily think it was it's a doom and gloom for Marvel. You could kind of see all markets are correcting, and that's the biggest thing is correction. And same with we talked about PSA 9 versus PSA 10. There's going to be a point in time where people are going to be like, you know what? There's so much value in PSA 9s. Like, it's so ridiculously cheap. It shouldn't be going lesser than raw cards, right? And vice versa. It's like PSA 10s. We're paying X amount of dollars for a PSA 10. Why? Eventually, I think that market will correct itself too. So it's not saying that it's doom and gloom. It's just it was bound for a price correction, because you got to understand what can sustain those prices logically. Right. And when you take into those factors, you'll kind of dissect and see, you know what, I could see this thing correcting, or I could see this losing value, etc. But for Marvel, I think there's still a future. It's just with every market we're seeing that correction. Right. So.
Yeah, totally agree. How about kabooms?
Ooh.
Like the insert kabooms?
Yeah.
People love them, eh? Like they love. I own 0, and I plan to continue to own 0 because they don't really like draw my attention, but it all depends on supply demand at the end of the day, right? So I think there's enough demand that keeps that price there right now. But again, like you said, any correction can happen, right? Where it's like we could look at it 2 years from now and say it's just an insert, like.
Which it is.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, will it ever do that? Maybe not, right? But it could. So it's not like I would be surprised if that did happen. Me personally, I don't see the craziness. Like, I rather have like a parallel of the rookie card, unless that Kaboom was a rookie card, where it's like Herbert Kaboom and it's his rookie year or whatever, right? So
sure.
Yeah, I think those insert cards might have been a tad overblown. And you're going to probably see the correction now and moving forward as more kabooms and as more color blast, they come out, and they're still case hits. But when you're printing, 900,000 cases, they're going to start popping up quite a bit. So I think the overall lure and the mystique and, how special these cards are, I think that a lot of that might wear off. Still awesome to collect, no doubt. And there's, the rookie players of those years, like Color Blast of Cade Cunningham or something like that, I think will still hold a lot of value. But when you're talking something like Luka, when you get into like his 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th Color Blast or kabooms, iterations of kabooms, obviously it starts to get less and less special, right? Unless you end up collecting all of the Lukas,
That'd be a cool collection.
That'd be pretty cool.
I would,
I'll admit.
Somebody do it.
Yeah. I think it'll still prices will still be good, but I think that time when it was lucrative, I think that ship might be sailing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clark, I do believe in the home field advantage, though. Let's not discredit home field advantage.
That's why I'm really asking about this insert question. I was getting there.
Sorry,
collect what you love, Clark.
John, you're completely wrong. These inserts are going to pop any day now, any second.
Pump
especially
and
the home field advantage.
Pump and dump.
Hey, if what I love about home field advantage is it didn't cost me that much to get into
sure.
it, right?
Yeah.
Well, whereas kabooms, you're spending thousands.
100%. But color blast.
And that's the thing. It's like if you're able to collect like a rare insert like home field advantage where the print run is lower and it's a fun collection because it's affordable, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Then that's awesome. But stuff like kaboom or downtowns or like inserts that are already inflated, if you try to like collect a set, good luck with that because you're gonna have those 2 or 3 players that are are worth the whole set times 10, right? So sure. So it's more realistic to kind of collect like the cheaper, I guess, the sets.
Yeah. So I think the lesson here in this market is A, proceed with caution, and B, like build stronger convictions of your plays by doing more research, especially in this market, right? 100%. And then I think 3 is like, I think we alluded to this indirectly, but in this market, looking longer term is probably more wise than trying to figure out the short-term flips, trying to find those gains, which are really hard to do these days.
If we had those, just the Beckett books, remember the price guides, and go back to that and not have eBay as comps or 130 point. We just look at the arrow going up or arrow, in this case, arrow going down.
Yeah. Got to get Refractor Jones back on this show and try to, have him get back on.
That was crazy.
Republishing those Beckett magazines.
For me, the Beckett magazines were the holy grail. Like that was
for sure.
The thing.
That was it. That was it.
You look at it, you see the arrows. Game over. There's some crazy price action there.
From $6 to $9. Oh baby.
Going up.
Good stuff. All right, let's move on to our next segment that we are calling Chasing Goats. And this is actually part 2 because we did this last week with guys like LeBron, McDavid, Mahomes, and Mike Trout. If you haven't heard that episode, go back to last Tuesday's episode where we talked about all these players. Today, I came up with a list of 4 more iconic cards of GOAT-type players. And for this segment, I got the price at what it sold for at the peak of the hobby, or a kind of an estimate, and also the last sold price. And then we can talk about whether it's getting to a price target where we're looking to push that buy button soon, or if we're holding out longer for a further dip.
This is where we're bad.
Dip. Yes. Yeah.
So you just multiply it by 2 or 3. What you think is the floor?
Right. All right. So let's start with Stephen Curry. His Topps rookie card, paper, PSA 10. It's sold in February of 2021 for $18,500.
Damn.
Right. The pop count of the PSA 10 is 365, and it last sold for $7,500 just a few days ago. So,
yikes!
What do you guys think with Steph Curry's Topps rookie card?
What I think is that $18,500 is a tough pill to swallow.
Whoever bought that, shoot.
Yikes! But it's all good. We've all made mistakes. I personally think we're gonna see a little more. Like, you got to remember, Steph Curry won a championship again, and a year later, you're talking about a 55-60% retraction. Right. And then for me, I believe you're at another 30 to 50 here. So I think I'm a buy at around 5K. And it's probably going to be lower than that. But I think the pop count is relatively low at 365. So I don't think it's such a big worry where you're like, oh man, if I buy it for like a 6K or a 5K marker, I think you could hold it at that time and ride the wave to when it goes back up, right? So I think it's still high. I think it's gonna come down a bit. So I'm gonna wait until that like 5K marker, and then I would consider it a buy.
Okay.
Clark, do you know the pop count on the Bowman PSA 10? The card that you always wanted.
I could check that, but
is it significantly less? Okay.
Yeah, it's
actually
significant. I think it
for
would
the PSA 10.
Yeah. Like 150-ish or something like that.
It is 146. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Good guess. Me personally, and this is just a personal bias, I'm not all about that Topps card. I think it's just too normal and, very, very base. And albeit it's a very special base because it's Pop 365. And Curry's year was probably one of the lowest printed basketball runs we've seen in a long time. So even though it is base, even in raw form, I think there are not that many in existence. So I understand the pop. But for me, and this is literally just a personal thing, has nothing to do with what I think is going to be a better investment. But I'm more along your train of thought. I'm very much more interested in the Bowman. So if the Topps goes down to 5K or 4,500, I'd imagine the Bowman would be at like 2,000 or whatever the ratio is. I would be very interested at the Bowman at a low price over the Topps, but that's just me. If you're into for the purpose of the question, if you're into the Topps, I think Hyung's correct. I think at around 5, you might see some serious support. So if it actually gets to that number, if you're ever looking for the Steph Curry Topps Chrome, that sort of number might be the time.
Topps paper.
Topps paper, yeah. That sort of number, I think would be the time to pounce.
Yeah. This is a similar discussion to what we had in last week's show where we talked about the different base cards of Mike Trout Topps Update and
That's
even
right.
the LeBron James Topps Chrome base card, right?
So exact train of thought for sure.
Yeah, so I'm not going to waver from that either. I'm not a huge fan of the base card. If I had the money, I would splurge on the Topps Chrome, which is significantly more. But but yeah, it's and like you already mentioned, I like the Bowman 2009 Bowman 48 card better because it's numbered to 2009 as well, right? So that has that going for it. So I'm off. I think it could actually go below 5,000 to tell you the truth, but only time will tell. All right, let's go to hockey. Wayne Gretzky, I can't believe I didn't include him in the first list. I think I was thinking more modern with McDavid, but Wayne Gretzky, his iconic 1979 O-Pee-Chee rookie card. I went with PSA 8 just so we have a higher pop count to work with because obviously PSA 10 and 9s are just into the stratosphere. But his PSA 8 sold in April of 2021 for $36,000.
Damn.
Yeah, and last sold for 14.6 thousand, so 14,600, with a pop count of 773.
Yeah, like it's the same for me. It's like what were prices in 2019? So from 2019, if you draw a graph and you skip 2020, 2021, and then you mark today's date in price, that's where the correction obviously is, right? So that whole spike. So I don't know what PSA prices were before. Kind of like I would imagine they were a lot lower. So like I'm a buyer on the PSA 8 for like 7K. Like I think it's gonna keep on going. That pop count can't hold, and as long as people keep on day trading cards, this is where I say hold. It's a hold. If it's a whole period, you'll hold the value. But if people are just literally cashing out on, anything that has over, a few hundred in their pop count, they can't really hold that value. So I think even the last sold at 14.6 is pretty high. And you see it in the lower end Gretzky's because we see it at trade shows always, even from last summer or last November till now. Like we're talking, Gretzky's have come down massively in price, right? So it's it's something that I expect to continue. So I'm off, even though that's like a card I would like to target. Is a better condition OPG like Wayne Gretzky. For anybody that grew up in their era, that was the Grail card for hockey, right? So especially the OPG. So I'm gonna wait a bit. Like I said, Black Friday's coming soon.
Yeah.
in a year or so, maybe even more. So, yeah.
Yeah, and again, the PSA 9, just to give you some context, that last sold for 156,000 last week.
Wow.
And we know PSA 10 there's only 2 of them. So
and there's like 1 million, 1.25 and 2 or something
last
like
sold price was 1.29 million exactly in December of 2020. So yeah, PSA 8 for like if you really want to work at it, that's more attainable for the higher end collectors, regular high end collectors. What do you think, John?
You know what? I thought people were going to think I was crazy for saying this number, but I was thinking exactly what Hyung was thinking at 7K. That seems, as crazy as that sounds, that is like a number that I feel is more reasonable for this card. No knock on Wayne Gretzky, no knock on one of the all-time, if not the grail card for any hockey collector. But when you think of the modern, like the hobby now, and the money now, and what people are interested in, I know the Wayne Gretzky hits nostalgia big time, right? And there's a lot of old heads that have money that go after that card. But if you look at all the new money and modern cards and all of that stuff, you know, at 15,000, at 13,000, at 12,000, most people could say there's a lot, even in the hockey space, most people would say there's a lot other stuff I would rather buy at that much money. That I think can do better, or I like better, or whatever. So it just seems, you know, I think that number is inflated because the PSA 9 is so inflated, and vice versa. So I think when all of it starts to correct, we could see it come down. But yeah, 14.5 thousand, I still think that's a lot of money for the PSA 8. But again, all-time grail PSA 8 for that card. This was like pre-sleeves protection. You know, people had these in their back pockets. Like, there's not a lot of them in good condition. So PSA 8 is actually like mint condition straight out of a pack. So I understand it as well.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, us being Canadian boys, it's definitely a grail card for all of us that grew up with watching hockey. But yeah, I'm going to agree with you guys. 15, I was looking at last time it was around 7,000. It was May, June of 2020, so just over 2 years ago.
Okay, so that was right at that start of that COVID bump, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's where, that's where I think it'll correct back at that level. For sure,
you know. I think so too. Yep. All right, we talked about this last episode, Tom Brady's 2000 Bowman Chrome base rookie card, and I can't remember I think we did the PSA 10, so I wanted to do the BGS 9.5 this time. I was looking originally at the Panini contenders, but that was like low pop and just we're looking at 5-6 figures, right? So if we're looking at the Tom Brady 2000 Bowman Chrome base rookie card, BGS 9.5 gem mint, in November of 2021, it sold for 16,000, and it last sold for 5,000. And that card of BGS 9.5 Gem Mint has a population of 1,526.
Do we know what the PSA 10 sells for? Is it 20? 20 or like 15 maybe? I could be totally off. I'm not in Brady cards a lot, so
it sold for 12,000.
12,000. Okay. 9.5 BGS 9.5 pop counts at 1526.
Yep, and the PSA 10, the one that sold for 12,000, the pop counts about 1,100.
I'm gonna sound like a broken record, you know, and it's the same thing. It's like I think yeah, he's definitely a guy you want to target, even if it's his base card. I think his base Bowman Chrome card is a grail card for a lot of people, and I think there's superb value in BGS. Like if it was PSA 10, it'd be different, because I'd say there's a correction coming for PSA 10s, and there's a lot more value in cards like BGS 9.5s. Corrections the other way. At least it will sustain that price, but I still think it's going to go lower. And same with the PSA 10. Just it's still off season, and you know we're still months away from football season, and we don't know where basically the economy is going to go from there. So I'm going to say it's still going to retract. You know, if I might be interested in that 3K range, I think. Yeah.
Okay. That 5K number, is that a min gem? That's not a true gem, right?
It's probably a min gem. Yeah.
Yeah, I think true gem would be closer
to like 7,000 or something like that.
Yeah, I would assume.
Right. Well, Hyung kind of mentioned it. I was going to ask you, so I guess I'll ask this question to Clark. Serious question: how convicted are you guys that BGS is going to actually make a comeback and get back to, because we always talk about this, right? Oh my gosh, BGS True Gems are 50% of PSA 10, right? It's the buy. For sure BGS is the buy. For sure BGS is the buy. So much value there. But we firmly, the reason why there's value there, because we have to firmly believe that BGS will come back to 70% of PSA 10 or 80% of PSA 10. That's the purpose of buying that card, right? So if the ratio continues to always stay the same, is there really a purpose of buying the BGS 9.5 other than the fact that that's your budget price, right? I can only afford $2,000 instead of $7,000, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys, where's your thought process in terms of like how much you actually believe BGS is going to make a real comeback in terms of a brand? Because I'm not feeling it as much anymore. I'm not, I still think True Gems.
It's about the grade.
Yeah, like I still think True Gems
it's a
are.
true gem.
Yeah, and then we also saw that Lamine post that some guy had the True Gem Plus and put it into PSA and it came out an 8.
Came with PSA.
Oh,
I told you.
God.
What did I say?
Oh my
What did I say? PSA 8s, PSA 8s.
Here's
all
regular.
day.
Here's another
Just
regular segment of Hyung being pleased
said-
with PSA.
I told you guys this a couple episodes
PSA
ago.
just being like
you
Oprah,
said,
like you get a PSA 8 and you get a PSA.
everybody's getting 8s these days. But yeah, I sent that because I thought you'd get a kick out of it.
Yeah. Honestly, the way I'm buying right now, I'm buying as if BGS 9.5 is going to retain its value, if not improve over the years. Because I think PSA 10s are overvalued. I still feel that way. And right now, with all the inconsistencies in grading, that's going to definitely play a factor in how collectors view grading in general, especially with PSA and, will SGC start taking a larger market share because of that? I think so. And I think who knows what's going to happen with all the different grading companies with the technology that's available, but and whether they can improve in a timely manner. But right now, the landscape is still wide open, I think. And BGS still has a good, strong brand power, in my opinion. And I don't think you can count them out yet. I'm certainly not. To hedge for me a little bit is to buy only true gems, true BGS, true gem cards. So that's what I'm targeting, if at all, with BGS 9.5. Whereas before I would have just got anything. Min gem would be fine. But yeah. So that's my conviction, I guess.
Yeah, no, for me, I agree. I think BGS has such a rich history as well that compared to PSA 10s, one is undervalued, one is overvalued, or you have to just see that for yourself and see what kind of, I guess, makes sense for you. Because if you're paying a premium, almost 100% premium on as a PSA 10, and they're technically graded the same card, that is insane. To me, if you're talking logic, right? Just straight up logic, and you say buy the card, not the grade, right? To me, that 50% value of BGS is way more value in itself. Even if it goes down or up, I'm still saying, okay, if I believe in this card, I don't want to dump $12,000 into this a Bowman Chrome PSA 10. I rather dump $5K in a BGS True Gem or $7K in a BGS True Gem, because I just don't want to pay that $12K. Because if that PSA 10 goes to $30K, my BGS is going to go up just as much. It's just I don't have to, pay for the inflated, PSA 10 slab that everybody wants, right? Especially when, you don't even know if that's the actual grade, right? And that's the worst part, I think. And once people start figuring that out, I think that's when the correction will come, right? Because that our perspective will shape our actions, right? And then our actions will dictate basically our purchasing, right? So I think for me, it's I'm not gonna pay a premium on PSA 10s, a premium price for PSA 10s. I'll still buy PSA 10s and look for value, but I'm not buying a card because it is a PSA 10, right? Unless it's a certain situation where it's a Pop 1, Pop 2, and it's a card that realistically I believe in, right? So
yeah, and case in point, before you asked the question, John, and I'm curious to see how you respond based on what we think. But like that Steph Curry Bowman 48 rookie card, like the PSA 10's going for about 7,000, and the BGS sold like for a true gem sold for just like 3,000. You know what I mean? So like at a 60% discount,
right,
or cut, you know, of the PSA 10, like I'm buying that BGS 9.5 true gem all day.
Right.
All day, yeah.
Right. So for me, my logic also, you buy the card, you know, not the grade. And if both grades, you're both confident in both. Logic, 100%. We've been saying it all along. True gem, so much value. PSA 10 could be overvalued. I'm with you guys, but the reason why I brought it up is I'm now maybe not as convinced that hobby logic will follow logic, right? And, you know, for me as a collector, you know, at some of these price points, they're big boy cards, or, you know, even whatever, $1,000 card, $500 card, whatever your budget is for like a really high end or like a really big grail card. I'm personally a fickle collector. I know a lot of people that are fickle collectors. It clearly shows in a lot of pricing. And if I'm going after my holy grail, I personally don't like, you know, if it's $1,000, and it's a BGS 9.5 true gem, and it's 2,000 for the PSA 10, like I am so inclined to go for that PSA 10. And it's more about the fact that I don't like looking at the 9.5. I don't like, it's so like stupid and fickle, but if I'm going to stare and enjoy my all-time PC card, like I want it in a holder that I like looking at, right? So it's
what if it was a PSA 10 old label that looked like coffee stains on it? Because half of the old labels look like they have coffee stains on it. Water damage.
You know what? I do. You're right on that too. I do look for new labels if I can. There's just, you know what? There's just a weird series of PSA labels. It was during like sort of like 2010, 2015, fake. Where the air got into them and they're all kind of wavy and they look crinkled. But some of the even older ones, like from like the early 2000s, they're all perfectly straight. It's just, the printing just looks old, but yeah. Anyways, it was a thought process that I had. I was thinking, you know, we keep saying it, BGS, true gems, so much value. And I know a lot of, you know, social media and a lot of other, podcasts and whatnot, YouTubers say the same thing, but I'm just not supremely convinced that hobby logic will follow that, but we'll see.
Fair point. Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, it's simple as I don't like the pop count being over 1,000. I feel like that's, you know, I don't know. It's such a subjective number to say like, oh, this is a higher pop count than I would like. Right. 1,000. But for me, you know, I guess similar to why you just like the 10 grade, John. It's just, for me, it's me being fickle about the 1,000 pop count of essentially a base card as well, coming back to the base point. So I don't like to pay that much for that. And I know that probably the refractor, I haven't checked, but I'm sure that's significantly more, but I would rather try to save up for that in this case. Okay, so let's move to baseball. Derek Jeter, his 1993 SP foil. I know we're all fans of that card. His BGS 9.5. Speaking of BGS, we're going back to BGS 9.5, just because his PSA 10 is ridiculous, you know, in terms of pricing. But the BGS 9.5 last sold in February of 2021 for $40,000.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. And it sold in February 2021 for $40,000. Yeah, that's a lot. And it last sold for $8.7K, so $8,700. Back in June 12 of this year, so just a few weeks ago. The pop count for the BGS 9.5 is 274.
And there was a record-breaking sale for the Jeter PSA 10, I believe, too.
Recently, right?
Recently. I don't know what that was, but I think it was six figures.
There was. It was 468,000.
Holy jeez. Yeah, so for me, okay, I monitored. I was a big fan of the 93, the SP foil card, Jeter, especially. There's crazy stories of this being one of the biggest trimmed cards, right. Plus, as well as how condition sensitive it is, right? So, there was this whole thing with like before the whole, the whole COVID thing happened. It was all about cracking and resubmitting, trying to get that bump on like BGS 9s, for instance. I had 2 9.5s and 2 9s. And you're questioning yourself, man, you think I could recrack this and get that bump to a 9.5? I'm telling you, a BGS 9.5 93 Derek Jeter is super, super rare and super undervalued. And honestly, I remember before COVID, it was floating 8 to 10K, the price. So for me, it's at that point where I think it's pretty low, to be honest, especially when your PSA 10s are selling for 400K. But I believe the pop is like single digits for that card, as opposed to pop 274.
Yeah.
So there's a huge difference.
But still.
But then that's where the price falls off, because any PSA 9, PSA 9s, I believe. Do you have prices for that?
Yep, last sold for 7,500.
Yeah, so a BGS 9.5, in my opinion, is a steal at like 8K. I think if you could find one for that, I don't think too many people are selling at that price, to be honest, because most likely you probably got in at a higher price point on that. But if it goes under that, I would seriously consider it. It was always a card that I would have loved to have in my collection. Was a 93 Jeter BGS 9.5. Super rare. PSA 10s were out of the question. Yeah. But you get a gem mint at 8K around there. I think it's reasonable.
All right.
Right.
Finally found a card that.
Find one card.
Yeah.
Yes, we did it.
But I could be totally. I do my research here. I I don't know. It's probably gonna go down more.
Will's gonna hate this because we continue to like agree with one another. But dude, I'm with you guys, man. I think the Derek Jeter 9.5, that's ridiculous. Like we've always talked about that. I know, Hyung, I can't really quite recall the story, but I remember you mentioning something about it being trimmed, and a lot of BGS 9.5s could be culprits of trimmed cards and all of that. So there's a particular history behind why there's such a discrepancy between pricing of a BGS 9.5 and a PSA 10. I don't remember which episode that was, but hopefully we can go back and reference it. But the foil card, erase what I just said before about PSA 10s. The one time where I'm so accepting of BGS and like not seeing the 10 is the Derek Jeter foil and PMG cards, where there's no clear border and the presentation is all about that foil not chipping, right?
Yeah. So
for me, I would be even okay with a BGS 9 if the corners are 9.5 and the edges are 9.5 and, surface is a 9 and centering is an 8.5. But if the corners and the edges are like gems, I am all about that card. And I'm sure even that BGS 9 would sell for a lot of money, because I'm sure a lot of other collectors think like I do, right? So for me, in the one rare instance where I like, or I'm very accepting of like a BGS 9 or a 9.5 is in either the Derek Jeter foil, or, I guess you could include like the Alex Rodriguez foil, and then PMGs. So this card, all-time grail for baseball. And a BGS 9.5, we're talking like a gem mint card being, like the PSA 10s are going for 6 figures, and this one being under 5 figures. And Hyung said it right. Like we don't even know who would actually sell for that low. Maybe you'll really kind of get lucky on an auction or something like that. But this is the one card of all the Chasing Goat series where if you have an opportunity to really pick it up for 8.5, 8, 7, 9, I think that this is one of those rare opportunities where you might have to pounce because you might not see that price again.
Yep. I love this card, as a baseball card or as a baseball fan. So,
yeah.
And you're right. I was like looking at listings right now for BGS 9.5. The cheapest one I could see that's listed is 15,000, so double. So they're obviously asking for a lot higher than current market price. But
right.
that one that sold for 8.7 was during a PWCC weekly auction, which is I think maybe we'll do another segment on another show, but buying other than on eBay, because I think
Right.
there's opportunities elsewhere too. So yeah, those cards are always one of those things where I'm thinking like, where was I? Why wasn't this on my watch list? You know, and then you're waiting for a long time again for the next one to go up for auction. But yeah, it's hard to find at that price, but it seems like a good deal for a BGS 9.5.
The crazy thing about that card is like every subgrade, that 0.5 subgrade is so much.
Yeah.
Like so much money.
Right.
Like we're talking a BGS 9, I remember, like a
1350
non-subgraded.
Sold
Yeah,
for
there you go.
$13.50.
And then if it's a good sub, it'll go up to like 3K, 4K.
Right.
If it's a good sub, 9, like a two 9.5s and 2 9s.
Right.
And then a non-graded, like a non-subgrade 9 would be like 800, 900 bucks. It's like, holy, there's such a big variance. But the collectors in that market, I'm telling you, they take that 0.5. And the reason why I stay away from BGS 9s and PSA 9s on this card, not PSA 9s necessarily, sorry, BGS 9s, is because there really is no price action. There has never been on that card. It's so stagnant that I would go for that 9.5 where, you know, the volatility is there.
Right. That makes sense.
So,
Yep. All right. That's Chasing Goats Part 2. For Part 3, whenever we decide to do it next, I got to find like these GOAT players, the cards where it's just dirt low, just to tempt you guys a little bit more. It's like, okay, this is the buy button right now. So I'll try to look for those for Part 3. All right, let's end off this show with our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. All right, and as usual, Hyung, can you start us off? This is with the segment for our new listeners where we put up 2 cards or 2 sets and we debate which one we would rather invest in. All right.
I'm going with baseball. Obviously, that's my go-to, and I want to bring up 2 guys that are potential MVP candidates this year. One, he's super underrated. We talked about him in previous episodes, but no hobby love at all. 2011 Bowman Chrome Paul Goldschmidt auto, a True Gem, last sold on eBay, a BGS 9.5 auto 10 for $380.
Wow.
Okay, so we're gonna pair that up with a 2018 Bowman Chrome first of Yordan Alvarez, who's the other MVP candidate, having an amazing season. True Gem sold for $600. So, obviously Paul Goldschmidt, he's at about a career 50 WAR. He's 34 years old, so he has a few more years under his belt. But gets absolutely no hobby love, as you can see. You know, $380 for a first Bowman Chrome. There's some minor leaguers that, like Jordan Lawler, sells for more than that, which is insane, right? So Jordan Lawler's 18, 19 years old with 200 career at bats. Goldies has a career 50 WAR and is on a Hall of Fame trajectory. And then Yordan obviously is one of the better hitters in the younger generation, and he's proven that he can hit year after year, and he's not stopping either. He's on pace actually to, I guess, outpace Paul Goldschmidt at this point.
In terms of what, home runs or?
In terms of like a career WAR, like
okay.
impact, the type of impact player. So Jordan's about 25 years old, or maybe a little older now, but he has about 9 years, and he has a career WAR of about 10 right now.
Okay. I thought this would be easy for me because, like, I was just gonna choose Goldie. Like, you know, that's
Me
the guy I
too.
know best, right? You know, on you know previous fantasy teams, he gave you stolen bases and home runs and an average. Like he's essentially a 5-tool player. But like you were mentioning, like there's zero hobby love, and he's in his 30s now. So I don't know if that's going to change anytime soon, or if you have to wait for him to get into the Hall of Fame if he does, right? So as an investor, you know, I would go for the upside play of Yordan Alvarez. Although, like, I'm not a huge fan of Alvarez. Like, it's not that I'm a huge fan. I just don't follow Alvarez enough, and he doesn't seem to be in the news as much. He's kind of those quiet, underrated players, in my opinion. Sure. But you know, he's 25, like you said, and I think at least there's still some upside. You know, if Houston's still a very good team, and you know, they could certainly make some noise over the next few years with their core group of players, and Yordan Alvarez is definitely one of them. So even at 600, like it's really only a couple hundreds more than Goldie. I'm going for the upside play of Jordan Alvarez.
Oh, nice. What about you, Johnny?
I was with Clark. As you were saying, Goldie's age, I didn't know he was that old. I was like, ooh, maybe not. But you know what? Both of these guys, I'm kind of with Clark. I'm not. None of these guys are like on my PC or anything like that. And I would probably assume most of the market is sort of the same deal. So if you're going to get into it, you're probably going to look to get into this to make some money and flip. So I think of the two, I'm actually leaning towards Goldie. I think he is. I mean, I think his cards have been going up. Scotty B has probably been doing pretty well with his gold autos that he had. But I could see his card maybe doubling by the end of the year. Jordan. So here's the tough part. I think everyone makes the argument, Jordan's ceiling might not be there because he doesn't field. He's a DH, right? So he's got to really produce some special numbers as a batter because he's not fielding and not getting like a defensive award, blah, 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 whatnot. But he could, if it wasn't for Aaron Judge literally going nuts, I think Jordan would be right at the top of like home run, flirting with being the home run king. And who knows, by the end of the season, he could be the home run king, right? So I think that's what Jordan has going for himself. But I just think Goldschmidt has, maybe MVP potential by the end of the year and candidacy. And he already, as of right now, he certainly does. So I think pricing wise, you're looking at 380 versus 600. I think the 380 could turn into 600. I'm not quite as convinced the 600 could turn into like 1,000 or 1,200. So for me, if it's going to be a flip anyways, I'm picking Goldschmidt.
All right. No one said it was going to be a flip though. You guys, I was speaking this whole 52 weeks of we got to get out of the mindset of just flipping everything, So I'm going with that approach. And for me, I think Goldie's super underrated. I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer and like he's on that tail end the last 5 years of his career and he could potentially, I don't think he's going to hit obviously break the 500 home run record, like that marker. He'll be probably somewhere in the 400s, but like, I think he's a Hall of Famer and he's so super undervalued. Right. Just at $380 compared to
so cheap.
It's so cheap. And then, you put on top of like 2011 was a big set ever since 2009 Bowman Chrome Trout, like Harper's in 2011, I believe. So it's like, I think over a long period of time, it's going to catch up. So I'm going to go with Goldie. I think Jordan still gets a lot of hate because he's on Houston, right? So
because people don't like Houston, I guess
people can't get over the cheating
scandal.
Okay.
Right. And H-Town's like my second hometown, so it kind of like I'm a Houston guy at heart. So it's like it's tough for me to say, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Goldie in this situation.
All right. That's a good one.
Goldie's killing it, man. If you look at his stats,
he's killing it. Yeah. He's stupid.
Anytime you look at scores and you see St. Louis winning 7-0, for sure Goldschmidt's got like 3 hits, 4 RBIs in that game. He's
definitely a fantasy player this year.
What a monster.
Yeah.
Yep.
What a season.
Damn. All right, Johnny, you're next.
All right. So because I've been doing a lot of foolish 1v1s, we're going to go back to the basic.
Oh man, I like your foolish 1v1s.
Yeah. No, I'll bring it back. Don't worry, I'll bring it back. But we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back to the classic, and we're talking about 2 basketball once hobby darlings with unlimited potential. Potential to ring multiple rings, MVPs, and I think this playoff, especially these 2 guys, took a bit of a beating in terms of their outlook. So we're just gonna go straight investment. We're not talking PC. If you're just going to either for yourself or give somebody investment advice in the sports card game, who are you picking, Devin Booker or Jason Tatum?
Ooh. That's a good one. Okay, I could go first. I mean, I'm biased because I have Jason Tatum. I still have the green prism. I actually got an offer for it the other day, but I'm still holding because I believe in Tatum. I believe in the Celtics. They obviously have holes. Like the Warriors pretty much exposed them pretty Yeah, it's pretty good. But you know, like I think I don't know. They're so close. I like both of them. They're so similar. Like that's why I like this 1v1. But I don't know. Maybe it's even just thinking about him playing for the Celtics over, you know, playing in Phoenix, and even looking at next year, which team is more likely to be to get back to the finals. I think there's a lot of moving parts in Phoenix right now. DeAndre Ayton might be out,
right.
and Chris Paul's getting older. And Boston still has that young core. And I think they're just maybe 1.5 pieces away from really elevating their game. So I am talking about flipping this time. For a short-term flipping perspective, I'm still sticking with Tatum and his potential over the next year or two. So I'm going with Tatum.
I'm going to agree with Clark here. I think Tatum, for me, is the right buy over Booker. For all the points Clark mentioned, I also think, Tatum, it is tough. This is very tough.
Very close.
But I think it's very, very close, but I'm going to go with Tatum just because I feel like he has a couple years, he's a couple years younger, and I still feel like he's going to surprise a lot of people. I really do believe that. I think he's going to win a couple championships. He's super young. He had a huge learning curve this year. I think he kind of like it was in his face, and there's two ways from there. He either takes that as kind of like I got to get better, right? And he's put together amazing seasons so far in his young career. He's only 22, 23 years old still. So I like the upside that Tatum has over Booker. So I think he's gonna, over the next couple of years, I think he has more potential, especially where his prices are compared to Booker. I think Booker's still a little more pricier just because his cards are a little more rare. So I think Tatum, you're gonna get a lot more easier looks with certain cards.
Right. Damn it! I couldn't get you guys. I didn't want to go sweep. This was a question I thought of because I really truly feel these guys are like mirrored players, and you can really go either way here. But I will also give Tatum by a hair. I think the Suns potentially not being able to win any rings at any time soon could certainly be a factor of his cards being stale or continually going down. And I think just in general, I feel like of the two guys, both didn't perform well in their elimination series. Tatum, horrible shooting percentage. A lot of people were saying he didn't show up in the big moments. I understand. But it was the finals. Young guy. It's really tough. And you got, Golden State defense just hounding him on every possession, right? But Devin Booker, on the other hand, I think, being up 3-1, or were they up 3-1? Anyways, being up against Luka, looking like they were going to just dominate, showing like gangster face and trying to act all tough. And then, coming back and getting literally embarrassed on your home court on the final game, right? I think that image is going to stick with him for a little bit. It certainly made me think a little bit differently of Booker. I used to think, he's a killer. He's got that. A lot of people are thinking, he's kind of like baby Kobe. He's got it. He's got that instinct. And I think a lot of people during this playoff kind of changed. A lot of people, like their outlook on who Booker is. Ooh, I don't know, man. I'm not sure if he's got it. I don't know if he's just acting like it and he just doesn't have it. So I think that might scare off a lot of investors. It's certainly kind of pushing me away to make Booker a priority. I would still love to get a Booker card at some point, but I think for those reasons, I'm going to go the other side, and I'll, it's still really close, but Jason Tatum.
The Tatum sweep. All right. Yeah. Okay, we'll finish this episode off with my 1v1. And, all right, there's a lot of different pieces here. On one side, we have the Stephen Curry 2009 Topps Chrome BGS 9. All right, BGS mint condition 9. And that's numbered to 999, the Topps Chrome. Versus Kevin Durant, KD, his 2007 Topps Chrome Refractor, which is numbered to 1499, but the PSA 10 grade, and they're both comparable in price. On average, $7,500 last sold.
I really like that refractor Durant. So for me, it's an easy one. Like, I just love that card. I think the refractor Durant is an amazing card, especially at 7,500. I'm in on that for sure. The PSA 10 Kevin Durant, no questions.
All right.
This this is a great question, because you're gonna test people whether you're truly a good investor or you're just FOMO, PC falling into emotional habits, right? Because everybody clearly, majority loves Steph Curry. He's vaulted himself potentially in top 10 conversation all time, 4 rings. And then you got KD on the other hand, who's wrapped up in all that Brooklyn nonsense, like jumping ship after ship. He recently getting into another like Twitter battle with Charles Barkley, and just, kind of looking like his petty self all over again, right? So I think his image and people just not liking it. Even me, like I look at KD and I'm just like, you're like...
Man, I hope he doesn't hear this podcast, because he's going to tweet at you. Eh?
Yeah, exactly.
So this is John guy in Cards to the Moon.
Like, bro, you're like, you could go down as top 10 all time. Your skill level is ridiculous, and you're just like this kind of like petty... I don't know. You're just kind of like you're being a loser, So I think that image of him that makes me just on a personal level, I'm like, I don't want any Kevin Durant cards. Like, I don't want them. Like, get them away from my life. But when you just look at this and you're talking about Topps Chrome, BGS 9, 7,500, Steph Curry at the top, at the height of pricing right now for his cards. And then Kevin Durant, it's going to go lower, but he is certainly taking a monster beating. I think whoever held on to Kevin Durant cards from 12, 18 months ago, I am so sorry, because you're probably swimming right now. And you're just so underwater on the cards. But man, you just take a step back, kind of peel away your personal personal bias, and you're looking at one of the top 15, top 10 players of all time in Kevin Durant. His Topps Chrome refractor PSA 10 at $7,500, or even lower than that. Even as much as I hate Kevin Durant, that's the pick. That's the pick, man. Like I would even personally, I think I would buy that card. Like, if somebody said right now, buy it, one of these two cards, I'm buying the refractor.
Okay. You know what? It comes down for me with the pop count, the 1,000. So the $14.99 is so random. I don't know why that they printed
$14.99.
That $14.99, for a Topps Chrome refractor. And I think the Topps Chrome, especially during that year, 2009, number to $9.99, like, I think that's going to be an instant classic card, if not already. And it's Steph Curry. No one hates Steph Curry, like, as opposed to what John was saying about KD. And you know what? Just to make a minor correction, like, his Steph Curry's price is not at its peak. It's actually down a little bit.
Right.
I think everything was kind of priced in already in terms of him winning another championship.
Fair enough.
Right. So at 7,800 was the last sold price, actually, a few weeks ago. I'm gonna, like, in this case, I don't care about whether it's a gem mint or not. BGS 9 is good enough for a card that's numbered to $9.99, a Topps Chrome of one of the, now I would consider in the top 10 for sure. Right. Actually, I think he leapfrogged KD in my opinion, because of this championship win. And things could go back and forth now, but for now, Steph is ahead of KD. That's why I'm going to stick with Steph Curry. Prevented a sweep, but it was close. You know what? That being said, I'm always looking at KD cards. If the market tanks even more, I would love to add a.
I think we're gonna look back and see how amazing his career.
What if his refractor's at 5?
It's gonna be. It's gonna. People are gonna realize how crazy.
Even the haters won't be able to deny his talent.
No, it's one of those things where you forget about those emotions, right? People don't look at like those, like the personality he was, right? And over 20 years you're gonna forget about all that and just look at his numbers and be like, dang, he really left left an impact.
Every NBA draft, every analyst compares like whoever the best player is or like a freak of nature. They're like, oh, this is KD light. You know what I mean?
Light.
He's a standard.
They compare him to, right? Yeah. So all respect to KD, just in case he does listen to this podcast. I love you, KD.
Yeah, you're done, John.
I love Kevin Durant. He's my favorite.
All right. Thanks again for all our listeners and subscribers who, tune in week after week. We appreciate all your support and encouragement. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast. And if you haven't given us 5 stars, we would really appreciate that. It would help us out a lot. And we'll be back for another episode next week. Talk to you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU@Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.